Welcome, everyone. I am absolutely thrilled to guide you through this explainer today. We're going to step into a really ancient, profound dialogue, setting aside our modern distractions to sit, much like a disciple before a guru, right at the feet of sage Vasistha. Today, we're exploring Canto 11 of the Yoga Vasistha, which is just a truly monumental text in classical Advaita philosophy. If you've ever questioned the nature of reality, the mind, or the soul, well, you are in exactly the right place.
Okay, let's dive into our syllabus for today. We'll start by unveiling Canto 11, explore the amazing metaphor of the water and the waves, and then deconstruct joy, sorrow, and Brahman. After that, we'll realize the cosmic I am, dive into the ancient physics of time and space, and finally, wrap it all up with a quick summary.
So, let's jump right into Section 1, Unveiling Canto 11 of the Yoga Vasistha. For some quick context, the entire Yoga Vasistha is a chronological narrative of instruction. Sage Vasishtha is basically guiding young Lord Rama out of this deep worldly despair, straight into the realization of absolute ultimate reality. And you don't need to have memorized the first 10 cantos to get this. The premise here totally stands on its own. Vasishtha establishes that ultimate reality is completely obscured by physical form. Our minds naturally cling to what we can see and touch, right? But true wisdom, the exact wisdom Vasishtha is trying to awaken in Rama, requires us to see right past this physical illusion. It's a radical shift from identifying with a mortal body to finally understanding the immortal soul. Moving right along to Section 2, the water and the waves, where we'll look at the first major philosophical cluster found in verses 36 through 39. Sage Vasistha tells Rama, Taranga iva toyeshu jivo brahmani samstita. Translated into English, this means the physical body and ego are but temporary waves. The true self is the eternal, unchanging water of the ocean. Just sit with that for a second. It is a stunningly perfect analogy. You see a wave, and it looks like an individual, independent thing for a brief moment. It rises, it crashes, it completely disappears. But what is it really? It was never anything other than water. Let's break down these classical Sanskrit terms so we're all on the exact same page. First, we have the jiva. This is you, me, the individual ego, the perceived self. The jiva is the wave. Then we have Brahman. In classical Vedanta, Brahman is the eternal, universal, formless consciousness. Brahman is the water. The profound spiritual meaning here is that your individuality is just a temporary shape taken by the eternal consciousness. And this brilliantly illustrates the practical application of detachment. When you actually compare the wave to the water, you realize that mourning the loss of a wave is kind of illogical. The wave hasn't been destroyed at all. It's simply returned to its true nature as the ocean. Vasistha teaches Rama that identifying with the temporary physical form, the jiva, brings fear of death and loss. But identifying with the formless consciousness, Brahman, well, that brings absolute fearlessness and peace. Okay, stepping into Section 3, Joy, Sorrow, and Brahman, focusing on verses 40 and 41. Vasishtha explains, Sukham dukham cha mayam brahmani tu na vidyate, which translates to, happiness and sorrow are not dual forces but mere reflections of the singular underlying Brahman. And this is where Vasishtha totally dismantles the illusion of opposing emotional states. We spend our whole lives running toward joy and running away from sorrow, completely convinced they are absolute truths. But Vasishtha says no way, they are just ripples on the surface. To grasp why we feel these emotions so incredibly deeply, we really have to understand Maya. Maya is the cosmic illusion. It's the mechanism that creates the false perception of duality, light and dark, self and other, joy and sorrow. Stripped of any modern distortions, classical Maya simply means that which is not. It literally tricks the mind into believing that the temporary experiences of the material world are separate, ultimate realities, completely obscuring the singularity of Brahman. So the crucial point here is the stark contrast between perceived duality and absolute reality. Duality says, I am happy today, but I'm going to be sad tomorrow. Absolute reality, however, says, I am the unchanging observer of both the happiness and the sadness. The spiritual lesson here is equanimity. By realizing that extreme joy and extreme sorrow are both just tricks of Maya, the disciple achieves psychological liberation. You literally stop being a victim of life's emotional roller coaster. Let's shift our focus now to Section 4, Realizing the Cosmic I Am, which is a really pivotal moment in verses 60 through 62. The Vasistha guides Rama to declare, Na ham deho, na me deho, bodoham amrito vyaya,
meaning I am not this bound form in space and time. I am the infinite consciousness from which all dimensions arise. This is the cosmic I am. It's that massive aha moment when the disciple stops looking at the universe from the outside and realizes they actually are the consciousness projecting it. You aren't a tiny being trapped inside a massive universe. The universe is a concept unfolding within your infinite consciousness.
Which brings us perfectly to Section 5, Time, Space, and Vedanta.
When we compare absolute reality to perceived reality, what's truly fascinating is how this ancient text breaks down the actual mechanics of the universe. In the Yoga Vasistha, time and space aren't fixed, physical containers. It's amazing, really, to think that thousands of years before Einstein's theory of relativity or modern quantum mechanics, these texts described time and space as perceived, flexible realities. Absolute reality is pure consciousness, completely timeless and spaceless. Perceived reality, like minutes, hours, distances, multiple dimensions, these are just cognitive projections of the mind. I mean, think about it. Time stretches when you're in pain and shrinks when you're in joy, precisely because it's a mental construct, not an absolute physical law. But how do we actually use this ancient physics in our modern everyday lives? Well, consider these practical applications. If time is simply a projection of the mind, then anxiety about the future is literally worrying about an illusion you are actively creating. You dissolve that anxiety by grounding yourself in the absolute present moment, realizing the observer within. You detach from the timeline of the jiva, the ego, and you rest in the eternal now of Brahman.
All right, let's turn to Section 6, the final sutra of Vedanta, centered on verse 112.
Adhyaropa apavadabhyam nishprapancham prapanchate. This is a massive foundational tenet. Salvation is achieved through understanding superimposition and liberating the self through the exception of the false. Adhyaropa means superimposition. It's like seeing a snake in the dark when it's really just a piece of rope. You've superimposed a false reality over the truth. Apavada means exception or negation, bringing a flashlight, realizing it's a rope, and negating the snake.
Let's walk through the exact steps Vasistha gives Rama to use this to achieve moksha, or spiritual liberation. Step 1, recognize the superimposition. Just acknowledge that your mind is projecting the illusion of separation and physical attachment onto reality. Step 2, apply exception. Negate the false. Say to yourself, I am not this body, I am not these thoughts. Just peel away those layers of Maya. And finally, step 3, achieve moksha. What is left when you remove all the false superimpositions? Only the pure, eternal truth. Salvation. As we get ready to wrap up this explainer, let's pull all of these profound threads together and quickly distill our key takeaways.
Think about the amazing logical progression we just went through in this canto. We started with the jiva and Brahman, understanding for a fact that we are not the wave, but the water. We learned how the illusion of Maya tricks us into suffering through perceived dualities like joy and sorrow. We explored the totally mind-bending reality that time and space are mere projections of consciousness. And finally, we learn the path to moksha, negating the false superimpositions of the mind to realize our true eternal nature.
But, the journey totally doesn't end here. Canto 12 awaits, and it explores a really fascinating question, the aftermath. Once Rama achieves this state of moksha, once the illusion of Maya is completely shattered, how does a liberated soul continue to walk, talk, and interact in the physical world? That is the next incredible phase of Vasishta's instruction.
I want to leave you with one final, truly provocative thought to carry with you today. If you are not the temporary wave, but the eternal water, what happens to you when the wave finally crashes? Take some time to ponder your own infinite nature. Thank you so much for joining me on this profound educational journey today. Keep questioning, keep learning, and I will see you next time.